We're live.
We're live.
We're live for our very first episode.
First one out of the gate.
The Dave and Cobb Adventure Show.
Yeah, I guess we should get our thing up here for the.
Yeah, show the masses what they want to see.
Yeah. I don't know. Just getting used to all this is going to be the key for, the first few episodes, and until it's just natural,
Yeah, for the first 100 episodes until it becomes natural.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, I feel like my lights are extra bright right now. All right.
How's my lighting and everything over here?
Looks like a room with lighting. You're fine.
Yeah.
I think you're lit up fine. I don't think you need to do anything more.
Nice.
What were you doing today? You couldn't stream earlier this morning?
Oh, I wanted to go on a water run, pick up a bunch of water
Naturally
for irrigating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool, man. You don't have water there? You don't have plumbing?
Very minimal. I mean, the well that we've got it's only 6 years old, but the thing pretty much went dry about a year ago. And we get maybe 10 gallons a day out of it, but almost nothing.
Yeah.
It's just like a drizzle. So this is to supplement all that. And then the not only the water that I pick up is for irrigation, but also I fill up the house system with it. Run a hose from the tanks to the outside spigot with a pump on there, and then just basically reverse force the water into the house.
That sounds complicated.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, there was maybe a slight learning curve, but after we did it once or twice, no big deal.
Does everyone in the area have to do that? Or is that just something that you like to do?
There's some people that do. We're waiting for our back patio to get finished, and then we'll put in a cistern. We just didn't want too many things going on at once. And once we have an in-ground cistern in, then we can just top that off. Basically have the well going to the cistern, and then the cistern going to the house. And then just top off the cistern, once a month or whenever.
I don't understand what you meant, though, by a water run, though. Are you getting some industrial-sized water tanks, or are you just going to Walmart and getting bottled water, just pouring it in there? Where do you get water?
They're industrial-sized things, I guess. They're
okay.
They're the big IBC totes. They're 330 gallons, and I've got 2 of them.
Oh, wow. Oh, I had no idea.
So, yeah, those just sit on a trailer, and then I go out it's like 26 miles to the closest bulk water fill.
Okay.
And then you just set this massive hose up on the top of your tanks, and then it only takes 6 minutes to fill the 600 gallons.
Is it drinkable water?
Yeah, it's just regular city water. So it
Nice.
has all the normal city chemicals and everything, which I prefer well water, but when this is all you've got, this is just what you live with.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Yeah. All right, so you want to get into it?
Yeah. What do you want to talk about? I made a little bit of a list here. I don't know what you had. I thought one of the nice things would be, since it's our first show, would just be talk about sort of how we got into crypto. Why you're in crypto in the first place. I know you and I have talked so many times about this, but I don't think I really understood your whole story. Why you actually decided that this was something that you wanted to start investing in, and what sort of because you went kind of hard and heavy. It sounds like you really dove in deep real quick, and I was just curious sort of how that happened, what your thought process was.
Well, mainly it was I heard about it back in 2013. I think that was maybe it was 2012, like somewhere in that time frame. But I think Bitcoin was maybe $100 or something at the time. And it was, on CNBC, and they were talking about being used on the dark web and people using it to buy drugs and this and that. And basically, like, this is for criminals. Like, they were really downplaying it back then. And so I didn't think much of it. And then, I don't know, like maybe a year later, it pops up on CNBC again, and this is just when I'm driving truck. So, I'm just listening. And it was maybe $1,000. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But I still was like, there was still a lot of scam talk and, this is a fad or this is only for criminals. Like, it was still that kind of talk. And then I forget about it. And it was probably 2017, early 2017, one of the podcasters I was listening to brought up Bitcoin again. And I didn't know anybody in my personal life. I think I had mentioned it I asked my brother about it. I was like, hey, what's anything about it? What do you think? And he's like, he had heard of it, kind of a deal. And I was like, well, maybe you consider, picking up like the top 10 coins. Because, at that time I didn't have a clue what was what. But I was like, I don't know what, is going to be good long term, what's going to be good short term, anything. I was like, just buy, the top 10 coins. But I never got around to doing anything. And I think then it was over the summer 2017, the podcaster had a guest on from Dash. And she really went deep into what Dash is, how it works, all this stuff. And I'm like, man, this sounds really cool. So then I was like, I need to dive in and get some of this.
This was what year? It's in 2017, you said?
2017, yeah. But then it was still like a month or two. Like, I didn't know where to go, what to do. And then the guy says, then he starts talking about Coinbase and, set up an account there. So I was like, okay, I'll buy a few $100. And then I was just hooked from there. And that was October 2017, and the price is running up like crazy. So, as a new guy, the FOMO starts to kick in. You're like, oh, I need to get my hands on this. It's usually how it works for pretty much everybody. Like, you more or less buy the top because the thing's pumping and it's in the news and all this stuff. Like, so the new guy always buys the top pretty much. And it was close to the top. It wasn't, I think Bitcoin was around 5,000 and Dash was maybe $300 or something like that. And then, of course, there was the blow off top in December, and I was buying this whole time. Like, everything did Bitcoin did a 4x from there. Dash did something like a 5x from where I had bought initially. And then it was just down, down, down. And everybody knows the story of 2018 of just everybody thought the bottom was in and then it goes lower. And I was buying the dip every time, and then the dip dipped, and like it seemed like it was never going to end. It was rough. That was a rough year.
Yeah.
But I never gave up. And then I had been watching Richard Hart. I found him in end of 2017. And I was like, oh, this guy's a really interesting dude.
How'd you find him?
I think he was on a stream with he was streaming with somebody else, I think. I don't even remember who it was. But I was like, oh, this guy's interesting. So then I'm up at like I couldn't even sleep. Like, if I knew that he had a new stream coming out or something, I'd wake up at like 1 a.m, when I'm on the road. And I'd watch his hour streams and then hit the road after that, because of all the hours of service regulations, I couldn't drive. Keep that door closed, David. Okay. And so yeah, that's when I found Richard Hart. And then at the time he was working on a different coin. CFD or something like that. Nothing ever came of it. And then he started talking about Bitcoin Hex, and then all the it was always delayed. It was delayed and delayed, and then he just went dark on YouTube for a while. I like lost track, and I wasn't in Telegram. I wasn't doing any of these other things to see what else was happening. Like everything I was basing what he was doing on was YouTube. And then because he went dark, I pretty much forgot about it. And then he pops up again in December 2019, and he does a little how you use the adoption amplifier, and send in your ETH, and then you get Hex out. He showed that whole process. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll check it out, try it out. I pop up my Brave browser and install MetaMask, and I couldn't get the thing to connect to go.hex.com. I couldn't get it to connect so that I could use the adoption amplifier. So I was like, forget it. I don't know what's going on. Like, I hadn't used any DeFi tools, or I hadn't ever used Ethereum aside from just buying some and having some just sitting in a wallet. Like, I'd never used a browser or MetaMask or any of these things. So I was like, well, forget it. I don't know what the deal is. And because I wasn't sucked in yet with him, because he had been dark for so long, like, I didn't have any FOMO feelings. I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to wait for it to pop up on an exchange. And once a centralized exchange picks it up, then I'll buy some. And sure enough, in January, it was on Roger Ver had it. I think, Roger Ver did an interview with Richard, and he was like, yeah, we're going to list it. So I was like, oh, perfect. That's my way in.
List it where?
On Bitcoin.com.
Okay.
And so I was like, perfect. So I had some, I bought some Bitcoin Cash, on Coinbase, send it over to Bitcoin.com. And then, at the time, Richard was like, he was saying don't FOMO in and all this stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to use the Bitcoin Cash I have and just set some limit orders, way down to the depths of nothing. And my timing just happened to be pretty good, where sure enough, like, that was pretty much the bottom, like January 5th, I think it was. And I think I had set those limit orders a few days before.
That's awesome.
And, so yeah, most of them hit. I think like 2/3 of them hit. Some of them were so low that they never hit, and I just let them sit there, and they never filled. But so then I've got it on there, and I just let it sit on the exchange. And then I think it was June 2020. I was watching Box Mining, or one of these guys were using. Or they were liquidity providing, various coins. So I was like, oh, this actually looks pretty cool, providing liquidity. And they were using MetaMask and all these things. So I was like, well, let me try it again. Let's see if I can get MetaMask to work. Well, it turned out the Brave browser, the reason I couldn't get it to work initially is because all of the filters and there was just tons of different settings that were blocking anything from properly connecting. And so I go back in and I installed a new MetaMask on Chrome, and the thing worked right off the bat. So I was like, okay, well, that's why it didn't work with Brave, is because all of these filters and stuff were on. And so then I start providing liquidity, and then I thought, well, maybe let me check out Hex again. I'm just sitting on liquid Hex this whole time. None of it staked or anything. So I thought, well, let me check it again, try out a 10-day stake. And I was like, oh man, this is pretty smooth, easy to use. So then that's when I just went. So maybe like August, it was July or August, I think, was my first stake.
August 2020.
2020, yeah. And then I was like, okay, well, let me throw out a 15 year, like a 10 year.
Yeah.
And then, but a lot of them were shorter stakes, like just 1 year. Because I thought the top was going to be the end of 2021. Like I thought Bitcoin was going to top end of 2021, just like it had in 2017 and 2013. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to, try to time the market, I guess, by ending a bunch of stakes at the end of 21. And that's when I just went nuts with all these different stakes and everything else. And I was sitting on some ETH, so I bought a bunch of Hex back, and it turned out it was, that was a good time to do that also, even though like 6 months would have been much better to really load up, but I didn't understand Hex really at the time. But once I actually staked and understood it better, it was like, all right, I'm all in. This is going places.
Yeah.
So
nice. How'd that first 15-year stake feel? Because you didn't have anyone to talk to or really reassure you or agree, like, yeah, let's do this. It sounds like a good idea. You just like went out on a limb and probably felt like, man, I'm just crossing my fingers and throwing this money away.
Yeah, basically. I mean, and I didn't even start watching. I think I started watching Hexo in August of 20. And so this was a little bit after I had made my first stakes. And then once I found him, streaming about Hex, I was like, okay, there's actually people out here that are pumped on this thing. It's not just me just sitting in the dark. So that was my first exposure to anybody else in Hex. It was Hexo. And then soon after that, then I was like, okay, well, let me check out Telegram. And then I really started to dig into the community of seeing all these various people. And then it just kept growing and growing. I'm like, okay, well, this clearly isn't going anywhere. And because I'm locked in for all these years, I'm obviously not going to, bail out, and mess up my investment. And, but yeah, that first 15-year stake, it was only like $30 or something, or $40 at the time. And, so yeah, honestly, it was my different brother was asking about it. Like, you really want to do a 15-year stake? You really did that? I was like, well, yeah, I don't know. Like maybe this whole thing's going to tank. I really don't know what the deal is. So I threw out a small one for 15 years. And then, but yeah, then after a few, some of these shorter stakes started popping up, I felt better about doing longer and bigger stakes. And then as the fees started ramping up like crazy, like I think it was only $2 or $3 to stake at that point in time. So $2 or $3 to stake, $30 or $40, whatever it was. I was like, okay, whatever, no big deal.
Yeah.
And but then as the fee started ramping up to where it was like between 20 and $50 to stake, and then some of these shorter ones that I had were ending, and it was like 50 or $100 to end one of these things. I was like, okay, well, forget these short, small ones. I need to just do fewer, bigger stakes for longer.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how it went. Yeah.
I like that. I think there's a lot of people, I feel like, if we're really doing this in any organized fashion whatsoever, I'm going to derail it because that's an interesting idea, just talking about like how you spread out your stakes. Because, there's so many people talking about staking ladders, and I forget who it was. Crypto Fitness? Is that his name or something? Was talking about that whole staking ladder thing. And, there's this idea about, coordinating it so that you have stakes ending literally every month. And I thought, man, I don't want to be responsible for monitoring that many stakes and ending them on time or whatever. And just thinking about all that, if I had a stake ending once a year, that'd be good enough for me. If I can't be responsible enough with my money to manage withdrawals once a year, then there's something wrong with me. I don't need a monthly paycheck coming from Hex. I don't need to be that careful. I would rather take out, once a year and then just restake some, or, reinvest it in other Richard Hart projects or whatever else comes my way. Then, I don't need to be managing that many stakes, especially with gas fees, the way that they are on Ethereum.
Yeah. And, I can't blame some of the early people when, some of the people back in, December 19, when they were staking, it was a few pennies. Like it was almost nothing. So they're like, and they would stake, $10 here, $50 there. And of course that $50 is now several $100,000, but they were staking 50 here, 50 there for a few pennies. So they didn't care. And they never saw this coming either, the insane fees.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like just the hassle of, somebody that wanted a paycheck, every 2 weeks they're ending a stake. Like it just seems like a lot of unnecessary work to be doing that. Like have like one stake a year if you want, max. And especially if it's an investment, like you don't need to be monkeying with investments constantly every couple of weeks having to do something. Like, you have your once a year stake ending, you end it and then live off that interest for the next year. You could restake the principal or sell the whole thing, whatever. And then, that 1 year stake will sustain you for a year until your next stake comes up.
Yeah.
But yeah, just we know better now. It seems obvious to us now, but at the time it wasn't so obvious of having tons of stakes and like when you first get in and it's a few pennies, like you're sucked in the FOMO, like you're just loving it. So you just want to be making stake just because you can, because it's fun. Doing a 3-cent stake, you're like, oh, this is a lot of fun. So, when they were in the adoption amplifier and they'd send 1 ETH a day and then they'd get their hex and then they'd be like, well, I've got 1 million hex for my 1 ETH. I'm going to break that million hex up into 10 chunks and just do 10 stakes. And then the next day they do the exact, like they were just addicted and sucked in and just loving every bit of it. But
yeah.
And now like, I'm wondering, so with Ethereum, once it's forked and we have Pulse, it seems like with Ethereum, people are going to be very skittish to be doing a bunch of stakes. Like it's going to be big and long. But with Pulse, people might get sucked back in to doing tons of tiny, 10 or $20 worth. If it's a fraction of a penny to do a stake, there's going to be people doing $20 and do like a 2-week ladder for 15 years and $20 every 2 weeks because it's a fraction of a penny. But then in 2 or 3 years, we might be in the same boat where fees are just crazy. And now you're having to not only hassle with so many stakes, but the fees might be eating up all of your interest.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very hard to fathom the fact that it could get like that, seeing that right now a transaction costs what, like a thousandth of a pulse or something like that, or a hundredth of a pulse. And then,
yeah. And if pulse is only a thousandth of a dollar,
yeah.
You're talking like you could do 100,000 stakes for maybe a penny or a few pennies or something.
Yeah, it's just whatever it is, it's ridiculous. And it's hard to fathom a point where it could be, transactions being anywhere that what ETH is. But then again, if Pulse actually does a 10,000x like people say it could, well, then that right there, the price of doing any transaction automatically goes up 10,000x.
Right.
And then if transactions become 10,000 times as expensive, you've got 10,000 times 10,000 is what? A billion? No. 100 million.
Yeah.
So it's 100 million X for the cost of a transaction.
Yeah. So you could be in the boat of, like several dollars or $100 or something to do a transaction. Like if it gets clogged up, and I think it's probably, it's hard to say, but like with the burning of PulseX, every time somebody does a transaction, there's going to be that bounty, and whoever clicks the button to buy and burn PulseX, they're going to be getting that bounty. Well, it's going to incentivize people to be clicking like crazy. And every time somebody does a buy and burn, there's also a little bit from that transaction that can be bought and burnt also. Because there's so even if it's a fraction of a fraction each time somebody does it, there's going to be somebody incentivized to be clicking that thing just left and right. Yeah. And so that's going to ramp up. And if somebody makes a bot, like you got to figure somebody's going to make a bot. And Richard said he wasn't worried about it, but maybe they can do something to where a bot can't do that. But regardless, whether it's a bot or a human, if you have thousands and thousands of people watching the bounty that are just clicking, every few seconds, they're trying to click this thing and thousands of people are doing it. Like you could fill these blocks up quick. And then it'll get to a point where, instead of it being 1,000th of a pulse to do a transaction, if you start filling up and now you're like at a 10th of a pulse to do a transaction, people might stop clicking that bounty button, less frequently because it's becoming more and more expensive to do that. And then in addition to that, you got people, using liquid loans. They're, taking out loans, and then they buy the loan token, and then any of the interest fees that they're gaining with that, they're going to harvest those, and then they're going to, buy something else and then harvest that. So like people are going to be doing a lot of different things quick.
Yeah.
And if there's 1 million people on there doing something and it's so cheap to do it, you might have the average person might be doing 100 transactions a day. If it's so cheap, why not harvest $5 and then buy something else with it? If you're going to get some interest from some token, whatever token it is, you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to harvest this $5 and then buy this thing, and then harvest off of that and buy that. And before you know it, like those, and it's projected, I guess, there's going to be at least 4 times the transactions on Pulse than Ethereum. And Ethereum maxes out somewhere around usually 1.5 million transactions in a day. So you'll be able to do 6 million on Pulse at the current block size. If they make the blocks bigger, then you could, bump that up more. But
you're saying Ethereum's actually maxing out, though? You mean that's hypothetically where it maxes out, or technically where it maxes out? But are they actually pushing it that hard where it's actually maxing out?
Yeah, like on any typical day, it's like 1.2 to 1.5 million or something like that.
Really?
Transactions every day.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was really funny, the people that I've seen that are talking about testnet, and they're like, man, I wish I didn't have to go to work so I could play in the testnet all day, because I could just hang out in there all day and play. I'm like, I don't know what you do to keep that busy in PulseX to play that much. I guess when it's so cheap, though, you're going to get those people that just all day they hang out in there and they play and they swap things around. So it is going to be crazy at first until the price starts going up and actually limiting, like something like Tron or any one of those are pretty cheap to play around in, but Cosmo's pretty cheap to play around in, but it's expensive enough where you wouldn't want to do hundreds of transactions a day just to play.
Yeah.
So I think when PulseX gets a little bit more expensive, or when transactions and gas fees or beat fees or whatever they are get a little more expensive, it's going to cutting down on all that.
Yes, people will slow down a little bit once things get more expensive, but like when I don't know if you've provided liquidity on PulseX yet, and then and you can see your incentive token. So you provide liquidity and then you stake it, or I forget what the term is that they use, but so you're getting this incentive token for the liquidity you're providing, but you can see the thing just racking up in there, like every couple seconds. Every new block comes in, you get a little bit more of that incentive token.
Yeah.
And you know that there's going to be people that are like, every few minutes there's another dollar in there. They're going to harvest that and then do something with that. So, they harvest, which is a transaction. And then once they have that incentive token, and then they trade it for something else or stake that or do something else. So there's going to be multiple transactions every time somebody's harvesting and messing around. And some people are going to just go nuts with it. And then there will be the people that maybe, check on it once a day or once a week and then harvest and then do something with that incentive token.
Yeah.
And same thing with PulseX, with the staking of PulseX for various tokens that are going to be coming in. People are going to harvest those and buy something else, maybe buy more PulseX. But yeah, it's fun to do. Usually I go on once a day and I'll do like 10 transactions. I'll get a few bounties, I'll do a little harvesting, buy something else for whatever reason, and then that's it. Then don't do anything for a day or two. And then I'm like, let me check on how insane it's gotten on there, and then do some more harvesting and bounties. But yeah, I think people will get, not only the fees will increase, but people will kind of get bored with it to where they're not just feeling like they want to be on there all day long transacting or harvesting or doing some other thing on there.
Yeah, it's a shiny toy right now, I suppose, that a lot of people just want to play with. They're very excited, but I guess the novelty will wear off pretty quickly. But it's nice to see, though, the transactions can be that cheap where people can play around, because I feel like that's what crypto is supposed to be. And that's what, all this is for, is so that we don't have to, the way that the banks work right now. I work, where I work, dealing with payroll. And these bank transactions are ridiculous. Someone that gets paid incorrectly or something, we have to void out a check and refund their money or take back a payroll that was run. And it's like, the company fronts all this money because the bank's not actually going to return that money for like 5 business days, between 3 and 5 business days. It's ridiculous that, it's like, this is our money. This is my money. This is the company's money, or it's the business owner's money, or it's the employee's money. And the bank just, like a turtle, moving that money around. It's ridiculous. So, when you think about, it's 2022, everything's digital. There's no reason why people shouldn't be able to hang out online all day long and move this little, whatever, what does Richard call it? Magical internet money.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I think he said, magical made up internet money or something like that.
Yeah. Imaginary internet money.
Yeah.
And we should be able to do transactions all day long without it costing us a lot, or, there'd be any sort of barrier to us doing that, because it's literally just moving numbers through computers.
Yeah.
Well, so that's going to be exciting.
Yeah. I hope that at least for the first year that the fees stay below a penny, or maybe every now and then they're, a penny or two or something, at least for the first year. And then, but yeah, like if it gets clogged up too fast, too quick, and then now we're up to 10 cents, 20 cents, then you're like right back in the same boat. So I'm optimistic that, at least for a year, maybe 2, we'll be in that penny or sub penny, range.
Are you ready for August 2023 SEC phase for Pulsechain 2.0? Every year we're going to have a SAC phase for the following year. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it'll, who knows? I mean, I guess it'll be a good problem to have, because if it gets that clogged up, everybody that's in Pulse now, or at least soon after it launches, is going to be sitting pretty. Like, they'll have so much money that they're not going to care that the fees are, 10 cents or $1 or whatever. But and then so we'll fork it and have Pulse 2.0 and, keep opening up the new franchises to fill up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the people inside are already going to have plenty of money. It's not going to be a big deal to them. But that's what people have been saying too about Ethereum. I got into some sort of like a Telegram chat or something where people were like, who cares that Ethereum's so expensive? It doesn't matter. We got lots of money. The people have been there in for a while. It's nothing for us to pay $100 or $500 for these transactions when we're swapping thousands and thousands of dollars. And I thought, man, that's great for you, but that doesn't really increase adoption. That doesn't bring brand new people in.
Yeah.
That doesn't bring John Doe trying to support his family who wants to make a little extra money in cryptocurrency. The first time he does a transaction for $10, he pays $50 for a swap fee. That's horrible, man. That's, people that are already in crypto who have been in crypto for a long time, it feels like they've almost kind of lost the plot sometimes. Some of these big guys, some of these guys that push meme coins, I don't want to talk ill of people like B-Roots, but guys like that have so much money now that they have money to lose. They have money to play with. And thankfully, B-Roots, made a really good post the other day where he said, if you had $1,000, should you get into meme coins? And his response was no. If you only have $1,000, don't get into meme coins, because by the time you pay for the gas fees for the transactions, you get sucked into a rug pool or something like that. All your money is going to be gone before you know it, because you can't get into meme coins unless you have money to play with. So those guys that are making big money in meme coins, they're not your average investor. Yeah, I guess some of them are. They get lucky, they get the jackpot, but a lot of these guys are just they're monsters, and they're preying on the little guys. They're posting this stuff about how this thing's going to do 100x, and then they're using them as liquidity.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a rich man's game, and unfortunately, that's what crypto's become. So it's exciting to have Pulsechain come that can hopefully get adoption by the average person. There's that meme going around of what each type of different blockchain attracts, and you got certain blockchains that attract young punk kids and everything like that, and they said that the Pulsechain and Hex are for the masses. These are the tokens and the blockchain for your average family person. The average person's trying to get a leg up, and hopefully we're going to see that.
Yeah, I think so. And it's interesting though with some of these other chains like Avalanche, or like they don't seem like they're full. The blocks aren't full, but even then, like the fees are still 50 cents or $1. You're like, well, for a lot of these things, 50 cents or $1 even is too expensive to provide liquidity. Like if you're only going to provide $100 or $1,000 or whatever, and you're every time you're trying to do something, it's $1 to, if you want to harvest some token that they're, some farming token or something else, you're like, well, I just got $5 over the last, 5 days. And now I have to pay $1 to get those $5, for the average guy that's coming in with $50 or $100 or, something else. So yeah, I don't know why it's so expensive on Avalanche already, if they're not, really that full. Doesn't make a lot of sense. And hopefully the Pulse doesn't have this problem. Like it appears that it's not, but we really don't know. Like right now with testnet, like I don't know how many transactions are on there every day, but each block usually it's only a few transactions in each block. So once mainnet hits, and now you've got, thousands of people always trying to do something, I don't know, it's going to be interesting. And
I'm wondering, because right now you got to assume that there's a lot of people that are just making bogus transactions just because it's so cheap, and because right now with testnet it's technically free. There's absolutely no cost to people. So yeah, you're swapping. You could swap this for this and this for this and this for this and this for this and this for this. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. You're just having fun seeing you can do it because it's absolutely free to do. But when it actually comes down to real money, you're not going to be like, oh yeah, I've got $10,000 worth of this. I'm going to swap it for this and then swap it for this and swap it for this, just meaninglessly. Yeah. You're not going to make 100 transactions in a day. You're going to move your $10,000 over here. You're going to move $5,000 over here, and then you're going to wrap it up, call it a day.
Right.
So
yeah.
maybe
Yeah, like
people want to hang out because it's cheap, but you're not going to have as many people just playing.
Yeah. Well, with the swapping, like, I mean, there's always people that are going to FOMO into this project or FOMO into that project. So they're going to be swapping regardless. But for us that we're playing with PulseX right now, it's like I'll swap 50 grand of one thing for the incentive token, which, you know, and you just do it for fun. And then I'll swap back to something else, or, you know, back into PulseX or whatever I just came from, but I'm just swapping just for the sake of swapping, you know, 50 grand, even though it's, you know, it's fake money, but and it's
just,
you know,
for
it's
the
also,
sake of swapping.
Yeah, just for the sake of swapping. And then you see the you know, the buy and burn happening, and you're like, oh, I want to, you know, help out this buy and burn, so I'll swap 100 grand of something just to do it.
Yeah, just to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'll never be able to see it again. And I just want to see what it would look like if I did it right now.
Yeah.
That's cool. Kind of, yeah, not exactly what I was expecting to talk about at all, but because we're just digging right into the deep stuff. But I was hoping you could tell me more about Richard's wallet, because I don't know anything about that. You sound like you're pretty pumped, and K4K is super pumped. He said that it could be bigger and better than PulseX, which just sounds wild because I don't understand anything about it. I know that from what I grasped is that MetaMask has a lot of transactions happening, right?
Yeah.
And MetaMask's making a lot of money, so this could be better.
Yeah, you can go directly to Uniswap, for instance, and then you could be swapping between Ethereum and USDC or whatever else, just right on Uniswap. Or you can go right in your MetaMask wallet, and then there's a swap function or button on there. You click that, and then you just swap between stuff just right in that little wallet, instead of having to go to websites and you don't know if it's a scam website or not. So I think that's why a lot of people use it, because they don't know where to go. They just sort of like, okay, MetaMask is legit, but I don't know what websites are legit or a scam. So they just swap directly in the wallet. And then they take, I don't know, it's like 1% or something, or 0.8%, something like that, on top of whatever the swap fee is. So by the end of it, you might be paying 1.5 or 1.25% to do a swap. So basically, I don't think I'm as bullish on it as K4K is, but I mean, and maybe it'll be big, maybe, you know, I don't know what, but as long as the fees aren't crazy, I think if the fees are a fraction, maybe a quarter or a half of what MetaMask fees are, maybe it'll be good. But if you're close to 1% or 0.75% or something, like, you know, I don't know what the point of it is, other than, you know, new people can trust it and they don't have to trust another website.
Okay. So
but yeah, beyond that, I don't know. And maybe it'll have extra features too, where like in MetaMask, you can't organize all of your coins based on the dollar amount or the dollar value of your coins. They're just listed on there, and you might have a bunch of zeros up top that maybe at one point in time you had those coins, and now there's zero in there, but it's still listed, and you can't. Or even if it's like you have 50 cents of something, and then you have to scroll down to get to the coin that you have of, you know, several $1,000s worth. You're like,
or maybe if you degened into something and you got 500 trillion of a certain token, and now it's literally worth nothing. Yeah. And I have to, every time I go into MetaMask, I have to look at it. It's so embarrassing.
I mean, you can hide it. Like there is like a hide option, but you're always hoping that maybe it'll come back.
Exactly. I don't want to forget about it, because if it bounces back, I want to know.
And you can check Etherscan. I mean, like if you wouldn't necessarily forget about it, you just check Etherscan and check your wallet.
Yeah,
and you can see what's still in there.
Yeah.
You know, like even if it's not displaying it on MetaMask, you can still
I can
check
clean
out
it
what
up.
you've got. But yeah, it sounds like just the various features, it's just going to be better than MetaMask.
Yep.
And who knows, maybe MetaMask will add some of those features at some point too. Just, better user experience.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's though a pumpamental so much. I mean, I just don't know what's going to make me so much money if I sack for this wallet. What am I really going to get in return? What kind of returns are we going to get? It's essentially just working like another DEX, isn't it? It's
it
working
would,
as a DEX.
and most likely it would be a buy and burn type thing. So when you're swapping between all these coins within that wallet, whatever it's going to be called, a portion of those fees would most likely, I mean, Richard, I don't even think he's talked about it. He just said he's probably going to make a wallet. That's basically it. But we can assume he's going to have pumpamentals in there. So you'd have some of the fees of going back and forth will be used to buy up whatever this wallet coin is and then burn it. But, just like PulseX, there'll be some kind of buy and burn type thing going on.
So and this wallet probably would swap through PulseX too, right? So it would be using PulseX still and the wallet?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I assume so. Like, I don't know why he would go through a different DEX.
Unless it went out looking for the cheapest option.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, if it was looking for the cheapest option. But if most of the liquidity is on PulseX, you would assume that 99% of the transactions will get routed through PulseX.
Yeah.
And then if somebody creates a new exchange and then for whatever reason they get a bunch of adoption there, yeah, then you'd have that wallet routing through those exchanges.
Yeah, well, that kind of makes it sound like if it's just using PulseX anyways, how could it ever actually outperform PulseX? Because every transaction that's made in the wallet is just boosting the transactions on PulseX. The only way that you could actually make the wallet more profitable would be to have a bigger buy and burn function and make it more deflationary.
Yeah, well, with PulseX, right? You've got the fee is 0.29%.
Oh, 0.29 versus
for the swap fee.
Yeah.
And then out of that 0.29%, I think it's something like 22% of that fee is actually going towards the buy and burn. So you're looking at like 0.07%, I think, that's actually going towards the buy and burn. But if you had in-wallet swapping, with MetaMask, like I said, it's like 0.8 or 1%, something like that.
Yeah.
So it would be a much bigger chunk.
Gotcha.
Going towards a buy and burn than just the 0.07%.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but but then there's also the staking of PulseX. People are going to be incentivized to buy PulseX to stake to be earning all these other coins in addition to the buy and burn happening. But, like if you're just holding PulseX, you don't see anything. The buy and burn is going to be happening in the background. You're not even going to know it's happening. You're just going to have your PulseX coins. But then what'll be exciting for the holder is to stake it and be earning these other things. If this wallet coin doesn't have some kind of staking thing, it might not be as enticing to buy it. Or maybe there's some kind of, if you have these wallet coins, maybe you have to stake them to be earning fees or to be, generating some of the income from the wallet transactions.
Yeah.
But I mean, right now it's all speculation. Who knows what will actually happen? Just based on Richard's history and what we're looking at with Pulse and PulseX, you would assume that the wallet coin would perform very well.
You'd assume. When is the SEC phase? Has anyone said?
No one knows. And I would guess that I'm thinking Pulse will launch, and then maybe a month or two later, there'll be some kind of sack phase. Because I don't think I know he's advertised for developers, but I don't think he's said that he has people working on it yet, or if it's still kind of theoretical, or like, I don't think we've heard anything yet. Maybe I missed it. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, and that's exciting. I guess it's just one more thing, and I like to think of this as like diversifying, when you get your foot into all different Richard Hart projects, but I'm not sure if it really qualifies as diversifying if everything is Richard Hart. God forbid, something happened to Pulsechain itself, everything else kind of topple over like a domino effect. But I mean, it's still, I've got a lot of trust in the project, so I'm excited about the wall, and I'll definitely sacrifice.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Well, and right now, buying Hex or Maxi, which we haven't talked about yet, picking those up now is kind of diversifying, because you will get that copy on Pulse.
Yeah.
And being that it's immutable, Richard can die, or he could just go away or whatever, and the code's going to still work. It doesn't rely on somebody. So then you'll have your Hex and Maxi on Ethereum, and then you'll have your Hex and Maxi on Pulse. And then if Pulse fails for some reason, you still have your Ethereum Hex.
Yeah, that is cool. I really like the way Hex operates in that way. The fact that it's just a finished project, that it's a contract, and it's immutable, and anything could happen to Richard, and everything's just going to keep on going in perpetuity. I think that's why people like Whales are so excited about it, because it's just going to run itself forever as long as people decide to keep putting money and pulling money out. We're never going to have to be reliant on anyone else. We could just be using it. People could be using it 1,000 years from now, as long as the internet continues to exist. The Hex contract's just going to be out there doing its thing.
Yeah, well, I think Richard said it's good for like 150 years. Like they kind of ran some kind of theoretical or test or whatever, and said it would be fine for 150 years.
Wait, why would it be? Why would it be fine for 150 years and then stop?
Well, there might be too much data or something. I don't know. I don't think he said why it wouldn't work, but he did say after 150 years, most of this stuff is social consensus anyway. So what you'd have is you just airdrop a new coin to all the Hex holders and Hex stakers. You airdrop a new coin on a new chain or new whatever, and then that becomes the new Hex. That becomes the replacement Hex. Like if for some reason Hex just it's not doing what it theoretically should be doing after 150 years, then you just airdrop a new coin. Just like what Ethereum and Pulse basically is happening.
Yeah, you're forking it. Well, why isn't anyone else forking Hex? I mean, I understand that it's not open source, but other people have tried to create Hex, right? Why is it that hard? Why haven't other people done it?
I think some people have, but you have like they've had various versions of it.
Rex or something? Isn't there Rex?
Axion or something, but I don't even know. But yeah, you need a community to get the thing going, and you need the right now with Hex, you've got the OA, which hasn't screwed us yet, so we can assume for years down the road the OA isn't going to mess the whole system up. But with a new system, it could be Joe Blow in his basement. He creates this new version of Hex or whatever, some kind of copy, or maybe it has some better features. But then that guy, which who knows who they are, if they're holding 90% of the supply or a big chunk of the supply, they could be that person constantly selling and basically rug pulling everybody else. But then you need the community. You need lots of people that are, and Richard Hart had 50,000 followers when Hex launched. But even then, like only a couple thousand people or 1,000, whatever, actually were buying Hex. Like it was a small number that were pumped on it and using it and everything else. But like he had that hardcore following when it launched. And now all the Hex OGs that are streaming constantly, there's hundreds of different streamers out there. And now they're pulling in people. So like it's kind of a, it's a grassroots or, snowball effects happening. But to get the thing started, you need like that core group of people that are going to push it and just keep pushing it, keep talking about it, keep, doing their thing, building new things. But yeah, that's probably the biggest issue that other people or other projects are having is they don't have that core following.
Yeah.
And then
Which
now,
I thought it was, go ahead.
Oh, so yeah, now once you get that core group in and they're all staked for 15 years, even if they have a ladder, they're not going anywhere. So Richard Hart could die or, leave the planet. And you still have all these people that are staked for 15 years. So like,
do you think it's more likely that he dies or if he leaves the planet? I'm not sure what you're getting at there.
Well, I don't know. Like, what if there's some,
spaceship?
Yeah, what if the longevity stuff it is like you have to go to a different planet to have this longevity stuff done? And Richard's like, hey, I just found out about this other planet that has this life extinction program, so I'm out of here. See you guys.
Wow. I want to have access to Wi-Fi, so take care.
But yeah, so what were you gonna ask?
Oh no, you were asking about. Are you talking about how Richard Hart had the community and that Hex was reliant on the community, which I think is so funny because I watched that his old stream with his top hat and his like circus jacket, and I sent that to you on Telegram because it got me all pumped up. He was talking about free speech, but I mean, like he's an interesting fella, but it's hard to imagine that back in 2017 to 2019. People like you were just following him, being like, man, I watch everything this guy does. I can't wait until he comes out with this cryptocurrency because I'm just going to ape in, man. Like, this is going to be great. Like, the community is following him. Because I look at Richard Hart and I'm like, well, the community follows him because he made everybody rich. Like, because he came up with this fantastic product that is so reliable and so well made that, everyone wants to jump on board. It's hard to believe that before he did that people were like, dude, no, like he might be an interesting guy. And like, he was fun to watch. He has interesting ideas and stuff like that. But for people to get like really pumped and build like a crypto community around him, it's just kind of wild. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what it was for me. It was entertaining. I mean, the guy is smart. He knows a lot about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
He was fun to watch, so I just liked watching him. And long before any talk of a coin was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then of course, once you get the coin out there and people make tons of money on it, it kind of enhances that whole, like not only do you just were entertained by the guy, but he made you filthy rich. And now you're just like, the guy can't do anything wrong, basically.
When do you remember him? I don't know if you really know the date, but what do you recall about him first talking about a cryptocurrency? And did you think that it was like, this is just interesting, this guy wants to play around in crypto and maybe I'll buy some just for the heck of it? Or did he get in heavy and just starts talking like, listen, guys, I've got an idea and I'm going to make the world's greatest appreciating asset? Like, what do you recall?
His first coin, the CFD token, I think that's what it was called, was supposed to be a computer that scientists could use to run all kinds of calculations.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So like basically it would be, you would have to buy his coin and then you would use that coin and pay you would pay the network to run all these calculations for you.
Okay.
So he was trying to do that. And it was too difficult, he basically said. So then he's like, well, I still want to make a coin, but we're just gonna make a better Bitcoin, basically. And then he started adding all the pumpamentals, the staking longer to get paid more. When people emergency end stake, half of those fees or penalties go to all the other stakers. And like when he started adding all these things and just making it better, then it became what it is now.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wish I would have known about it back then. It would have been neat to kind of see the meteoric rise.
Yeah, but it was rough. Like there was a point where I sold most of the hex I had. Like when it did its first 50 or 100x, I sold a lot of it because I wasn't fully engaged and there was so much scam talk. Like I wasn't in the community yet at that point, or following people on YouTube or following all the discussion on Telegram. So I was just getting bombarded with tons of scam stuff. The guy's a scammer, and I was still following all the traditional Bitcoin maxis basically. And so I was like, I don't know what the deal is, but I'm going to more or less cut and run, take my gains and leave. And like I didn't sell everything, but I sold, a lot. But once I learned about it, like I was saying, and actually started staking, I was like, oh, this is awesome. And I basically went all in, went back all in.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, I can't pass this up at this point.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was tough. Like after that first 100x, it was sideways for almost a year. Like it was going from like 0.6 cents to a penny for, I mean, it was quite a long time, like a penny and a half or something for like 9 months or a year. Forget exactly, but that whole time, like you're just not sure if the thing's gonna make it or not, and this guy's a scammer and everything else. Like it was rough. I mean, it's kind of like what we're going through right now. When we topped out in September at 50 some cents, now we're at 12 or 13. So we're 7 months later and we're just like kind of going sideways basically.
Yeah.
Or it's, it's down 70% or 75%, but it's more or less been sideways for 7 months. And it may be a few more months before it gets moving again. I mean, I
can't imagine if it doesn't start pumping again when Pulsechain comes out, I'm gonna be upset. I'm just not gonna know what's going on. I'm in it for the long haul, obviously. I'm staked, but it's gonna be weird. But I was thinking though, while you were talking, I was thinking that crypto in general takes a lot of intestinal fortitude. The other stuff that I've dabbled in, there's the fact that I put some money into Cult and I put some money into MRI and stuff. And, and what happened with Hedron, where you buy and then you just see the price going down and down and down and down and down. And you're like, it's a project I believe in. I mean, Cult and MRI too are they're projects that, I'm not going to promote or anything, but I personally, I don't feel like I threw my money away, but it's just, you got to be ready for those long, drawn out dips that just go on and on and on. And you look at what happened with Dogecoin and Shiba Inu. Both of them, they pumped hard and then they just, for Dogecoin, I didn't know how old that was. That was an old token. That was around for a long time. And that sucker had sucker had like $1 billion or $2 billion market cap for a long time. And then it just hung out real low for years. And then all of a sudden they had that big pump, and now it's one of the best known tokens in the world. But those people that managed to hang on, how about the people like in ADA or in XRP who are just XRP? Yeah. Ripple, right?
Yeah.
They're just hanging out and they just believe in it, and they're just sitting and sitting and sitting and sitting and sitting, and it's not doing anything. The people have been staking ADA for years. My introduction back into crypto in early 2020 was watching videos about people that are staking ADA, and I thought, maybe I'll get into that. That looks interesting. That could be a good way to make some money. I saw it go from like 5 cents to 20 cents, and I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. And look at those people who've just been sitting for so long, waiting for it to take off. And I guess that's like Hex too. Is that here we are? We're just in a holding pattern.
Yeah. Well, and I do think once Pulse launches, I can only assume we're going to pump into the launch. There's going to be a lot of people that are like, I want to get that copy of Hex. So they're going to buy it up like crazy. And then once the fork happens, you might have a sell-off even before, like right before the fork happens. Because, if it does a 5 or 10x going into the fork, people are going to take profits. And then the second that fork happens, and now you got 2 coins on the both networks, people are going to be dumping one or the other or both. And they're just going to dump it for ETH and Pulse, or whatever they can get their hands on.
Yeah.
So then you get this major sell-off after that. But then once that kind of shakes itself out, being able to use Staker app for, and making a stake for a penny or a fraction of a penny, you'll be able to onboard people for $50 or $100, but you can't do it now. If it's, $50 or $100 just to do a swap, and then another 20 or 30 to stake, like before you know it, if you came in with $1,000, now you're left with 700. And then the fees are going to eat you alive when you end the thing. But yeah, so once Pulse launches, you'll be able to tell a friend, hey, put $100 in this thing. Maybe it'll do something awesome for you. And they'll be like, oh, well, how much is it, or what are the fees and this and that, and it'll all be right in the wallet. You just plug in your credit card or whatever bank info. You buy $100 worth, you swap it, you get $100 worth of USDC or some other coin. You swap that for your Hex, stake it. Before you know it, after $100 going in, you're still staking $98 or something. And and maybe they break it up into, they break that $100 into 3 stakes or something too. And then, they have their 5, 10, and 15-year stakes. So like getting those people on, and you'll have, and Staker app has said they have a huge marketing budget, but they're waiting for Pulse. Like they haven't marketed at all, or like maybe a little bit of marketing here and there, but very little.
That's awesome.
So once it goes live, they'll be able to market the thing, and people will be able to come in with $50 or $100, and it'll be like somebody just with their 401k, every paycheck, $50 goes in, $50 goes in, paycheck after paycheck for years.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. I was just telling my wife just yesterday that, we're investing in all these different things right now. And, once this all comes to fruition and Pulsechain is going, I will plan to just sit pretty and then just start DCAing, because we'll be able to just DCA $50 a week or $100 a week. Besides our normal 401ks or anything else we have going on, we'll be able to just make those regular investments into Hex or whatever, because it's going to be affordable. But yeah, right now, anyone that talks about DCAing, they sound like a lunatic to me. You see those people on Twitter, they're like, oh yeah, just keep DCAing, keep DCAing. I'm like, for $30 a swap? I mean, I don't know how much people make, but I can't DCA with
day.
Yeah, I can't DCA with those kind of gas fees. This is ridiculous. So I can't wait, man. It's gonna be awesome. I'm finally gonna feel like, instead of just being like a risky thing that I have poured money into these sack phases for, instead of looking at it like that, I'll be able to just look at it as a normal part of my weekly investments. It's just part of what I do.
Yeah. And what's going to be cool, especially with Maxi, is you can kind of DCA with Maxi because you don't have to, you're not staking it, or you're not going to be paying extra fees. You can just, you buy Maxi and that's it.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be, your Maxi is backed by the hex that's staked in the contract. And then as that hex is just sitting there staked, it's, picking up 30 or 35%, whatever it happens to be, every single year. And then whenever you want to bail, if you need to sell some Maxi for some reason, you're not penalized, and you're gaining all the interest while you're sitting on the thing. So you could be, you don't even need to be buying hex, DC, even when Pulse launches, you could forego the DCA into hex and just DCA into Maxi. Or maybe there's like in 6 months, maybe a Maxi 2 comes out and you DCA into that thing, or, whatever happens to be. Now, the one thing I do think is Maxi is likely, in my opinion, it's going to trade at a premium to what hex is, and not just 1-to-1. One hex equals one Maxi, and then the one Maxi is a little bit more expensive. I mean, like because not only because of the interest, but because it's just better to hold the thing because you can leave it whenever you want.
Yeah, well, and because of the Hedron as well.
And the Hedron.
Yeah.
But because you can sell it whenever you want, I think most of the time, who's going to want to hold just liquid hex when you could be holding Maxi?
Sure.
Liquid Maxi, and benefiting from the stake.
Yeah, you're paying a
having
premium.
to have it staked.
Yeah, you're paying a premium for the convenience.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's amazing, man. That's a good idea, DCAing into Maxi, because I think that's the most exciting thing. I look at it very much like a mutual fund. That's how I was explaining it to my wife. Is that because she wanted me to explain it, which for someone that's not that familiar with even how hex works, I was like, well, look at it like this. Imagine that we've got this really good opportunity for this investment, and it's big and it's complicated, and there's a lot of moving parts, and there's these added bonuses, and then there's this thing called Hedron, which we're going to bundle in there, and then we've got multiple blockchains. Forget what all that stuff means. We're putting it all into a nice little package, just like a mutual fund, and we're letting someone stake it for 15 years, and what they're going to do is they're just going to give us shares of that mutual fund.
Yeah.
And we're just going to have shares of that. And if the price goes up, price goes down, we've just got our shares. We can sell those shares, trade those shares, whatever we want to do with them. And when you think of it that way, it's awesome, because that mutual fund is the greatest thing that we know about, which is hex.
Right.
Hex with Hedron. It's like, dude, this is the best mutual fund in the world, and we're getting shares of it. I think that's exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say the only reason to not DCA into it, if it's trading at such a premium, like 20 or 30% higher than what the underlying hex is worth, then maybe just stick with DCAing into hex. Like if that premium is so much higher than underlying value, and maybe it holds, maybe it's always going to trade 30% above that value, up until the last, after 15 years, it should trade at the underlying value. It's not going to trade above that value. But leading up to that, it could always, for the first 5 or 10 years, it might always have a 20, 30, 50% premium. And maybe then it's not the best thing. But it's like most things though, like even with Grayscale, it's kind of like Grayscale, I guess, is kind of like Maxi, where you're buying something that is backed by something else. So with Grayscale, you can buy GBTC, and then that GBTC is backed by the treasury that Grayscale has. And there's times where it's trading at a 20% premium, and then there's times where it's trading at a 30% discount. And so maybe that's, you know, and Maxi likely will probably be doing something like that, where it's at a premium sometimes and maybe at a discount at sometimes. But I would assume that the time it's at a discount, it's not going to last long. It doesn't seem like it should.
Yeah, so it should be easy to get a chart. And I don't know how to do this, but you think that there will just be a chart that's a hex versus maxi, and you'll be able to see them just go across, and you'll be able to buy it when it's up or down. You'll buy it in the dips.
Yeah, the maxi guy, the developer, he actually just have you been on the site recently?
No. Is he
added
is he doing a chart?
It's not a chart, but he did add. I'm going to pull it up right now.
Okay. Yeah, I don't even know what the website is, sadly.
Well, it's Maximus.cash.
Okay. There it is.
And then go to dashboard.
Okay. I wish I knew how to share this right now for the stream. I'll have to figure that out.
Well, that's where the buttons on the bottom.
Yeah, I don't know how they work. I don't know what to do with it. Every time I click that, it's like it says screen layout, picture in picture. Oh wow.
Well, what about what does the share on the bottom do?
Share? Oh, is that oh man,
is that screen share? Is that
it says extra camera, share screen. Yeah, I can try. Let me see what happens. Sharing screen is easiest with 2 monitors. Yeah, I don't want to do this right now. I only have 1 monitor. Okay. And I don't know if what's going to pull up. But oh, here we go. Maximus premium discount cycle. Yeah, I see that. Okay, treasury value versus market value. But is he going to make like a live version now of showing where it is actually at?
Well, if you look at, see the backing per hex, backing per maxi.
Wait, where are you looking now?
On, are you on dashboard?
Oh no, dashboard. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, go to dashboard. Boy, there's 113 million hex in there already.
Oh, I thought you meant 113 million live viewers on their stream. Okay.
They're all bots.
Yeah.
Watching.
But by the way, yeah, if anyone is watching this, after not live, if you're watching the restream or something, we will have prize for the 100 millionth subscriber to our channel. So like and subscribe.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, are you on the dashboard?
Yeah, I'm on the dashboard.
Look, it's like the second block down, backing per maxi.
Yeah. Okay.
So right there, right now, it's just 1 hex backing each maxi.
Yeah, but there's a secondary market for maxi right now, isn't there?
I know,
people
but like
are always selling maxi.
The contract itself is, it's just 1-to-1 right now. For every maxi that went in, or for every hex that went into the contract, 1 maxi came out. So it's just pure 1-to-1. So
that's the backing,
that's the backing. So once the stake actually starts, and every day that interest starts coming, or the yield, the hex yield starts coming in, the backing per maxi will increase. It'll, after the first day, it'll be like 1.01 hex backing each maxi.
Okay. Yeah.
And then each day ticks over, and then so at the end of the first year, you'll have somewhere around 1.3 hex backing each maxi. And then you get that when you get the dollar value, like you could look at a calculator, you get So 1.3 times the 12.9 cents. And you'd have, so at the end of the year, let's say Hex stays flat. It's still 12.9 cents at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Well, your backed Maxi would be the 1.3 Hex, which is worth 16 cents, almost 17 cents.
So that's the treasury value. Basically, the backing is the treasury value and the market price is the market
Right.
price.
So if it's backed by 17 cents worth of Hex, you would assume that Maxi should be trading around 17 cents after a year.
Yep.
And then the next year ticks by, and instead of 1.3 Hex per Maxi, it's 1.6 Hex backing each Maxi.
Yep.
And then as the price of Hex goes up, the backing, of course, the dollar amount goes up. So that's the number that you would be looking at. Like, are you getting a discount or are you going to be paying a premium? So if it's 17 cents at the end of the year, it is the actual Hex backed. But if Maxi is trading at 20 cents, but and the backing is only 17 cents, then you're at a premium. But if it's trading at 12 cents and it's backed by 17 cents worth of Hex, you're like, okay, this is a discount. I should buy this thing. I'm better off buying Maxi than if I would just buy Hex. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I would assume somebody will make a chart, and maybe Gerardo or somebody will have a chart for the premium or discount, but somebody will have a chart to actually look at it. Or you just go to the website and you can see, oh, okay, how much is my Maxi actually backed by? And if it's trading at some insane premium, maybe you sell the Maxi for Hex and then stake that or do whatever you want with it. But so yeah, that'll be fun to watch, exactly how this thing actually tracks. And then once the minting phase is done in 6 days, or I don't know if it says it on here, 7 days from now.
It did say on the top of the other when I first went there.
So yeah, here in 6 days or whatever it is, then the stake will actually start, and you can't mint. You won't be able to mint any more Maxi. So that'll be the interesting thing to see, like how close is it going to trade to the underlying value, to the treasury value.
Yeah. Yes. 7 days and 3 hours. So they're going. Looks like Greenwich Mean Time too, or Universal Time, whatever the heck they call that. Cool. Yeah, I think I'm going to go heavier into Maximus. Very cool, man. Yeah. I think it's very exciting. I love the idea. I just love the fact that you can get out in a pinch if you have to. I'm all about staking and everything like that, but I already have stakes going. Stakes are great for diamond handing, right? But you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You can't stake everything and still feel comfortable. If an emergency happens, that's why things like Hedron are blowing up, and that's why Maxi's blowing up. This option to get out if you have to is kind of important. You got to have liquid assets.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, for a new guy, I think still having some stakes is definitely good to save you from yourself. Just like you said.
To save you from yourself, or doing it as as a trust fund kind of thing for your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the average person, the first time it does the 5 or 10x, they bail out.
Yep.
And they're gonna miss the whole next 100x or 1000x or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you just look at the Bitcoin chart, see all the times people, sold and bailed. Every one of those peaks is indicative of people selling. every time it starts going back down, that's a bunch of people bailing,
Yeah.
and then it always goes higher.
Yeah.
And yeah, look at all the people right now that have been bailing on Hex as it goes down, and they're all going to regret when it moons. Yeah, cool, man.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I can't imagine we're going down any deeper with Hex right now. Everything, it looks like it's primed for even a semi pump. There's just too much bullish stuff, too many bullish things happening right now that you would think that Hex is going any lower.
Yeah, I don't know, man. There was someone was showing a chart that said it looked like it had to go, it had to jack up to 16 cents or something like that. And if it doesn't hit 16 cents, then we're going down further. I remember months ago, there were people that saying, I mean, we were at this point, we were like 20 cents or 30 cents. And people were like, we could see this go down as far as 6 or 7 cents.
Yeah.
And I was like, you freaking butthole, man. We're not going that low. Get out of here. But I would never have believed that we were going to go all the way down to hit like 10 cents. So if we do go further down, at this point, I just don't care anymore. I think that's just more buying opportunity, I guess. It's not like it's that much lower than where we're at right now. What's another 50% down at this point? Who cares? Just do what you got to do, man. We'll ride the wave.
And when you're sitting on a multi-year stake anyway, like what's the point in worrying about it? If anything, you'd be like, oh, I can get it cheaper now. I can add to my staking ladder, or buy a little bit more and throw out a new 15-year stake.
Yeah. Well, I've got a little bag right now that I was going to buy some Maxi. So if Hex dips down to 6 cents, that's double my Maxi.
Yeah.
Why not? I'd love to see a quick dip down to 6 cents, frankly. I just don't want it to hang out down there too long. That's cool.
Yeah.
Are you all done with Maxi, or you got more to buy?
I'm not sure actually yet. I feel I most of my liquid Hex went into, and some other coins went into Hedron, and it just keeps getting beaten up. And I'm like, why, do I really want to, bail out when it looks like it could be the bottom of Hedron? Maybe it goes a little lower. I really don't know, but after it's down 80 or 90% or something, like, do I really want to bail out of this when it could run up? Hedron could do a 10x much faster than Hex can.
Yeah.
Not that it necessarily will, but when you have a new coin, it tends to move a lot faster than an older coin. So I'm like, do I really want to bail on the Hedron that I just picked up, or just ride it out? So I'm just going to ride it out, I think. But yeah, I did pick up a little bit of Maxi, I think this first or second day of minting.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to, once Pulse launches, pairing up my eMaxi with PMaxi, with the Ethereum Maxi and the Pulse Maxi, pair those up on PulseX, provide liquidity, and then, hopefully be farming the incentive token on top of, any fees from people going back and forth between eMaxi and PMaxi.
Yeah. Yeah. That stuff really confuses me. And once that stuff gets going, I really need you to hold my hand and get me into some of the farming there. I want to do some liquidity providing, but I really don't want to screw up. So if you can help me out with that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I mean, that's why it's, just playing around with PulseX right now, play around with the fake money so that you're not you're not losing anything by just clicking buttons.
Yeah, but none of that's really accurate right now, and it's so hard to tell. Things are moving so fast, and prices are swinging so quickly. It's impossible to tell if I'm actually making a smart move. I can play around with the functionality of stuff like that, but heck, I can pair, a liquidity pool, Shiba Inu, and whatever else, and hacks, and that doesn't mean that it's a good decision at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to pair. I don't know the smart pairs. I suppose anything that's going to be like an E to a P is going to be good, but that's through the bridge, right?
Yeah.
So I don't understand how that works. I got to play around more, I guess.
Well, and you can make an educated guess on, is this pair going to be a good pair to provide liquidity on? If it has the volume, a lot of volume is good because you're generating more fees from the increased volume. But you also want to choose two coins that are going to likely perform well. And depending on what the incentive token does, if whatever the thing you're farming or providing liquidity for, and then you're farming this incentive token, if you're generating, 50% in the incentive token, that can offset any impermanent loss from your actual liquidity that you're providing.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff, we're not going to know what the incentive token is going to do, how much it's going to pay out. We're not going to know that until it actually goes live.
Yeah, but technically, isn't it usually the pools with the highest liquidity are also going to pay lower yield, right? Because you're going to have so many people in there providing liquidity. You're sharing the pool with so many people.
Yeah. And so I think probably the Pulse to PulseX pair, I would assume, is going to be really huge.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of people that just provide liquidity to that pair. And so all of those, there might be $100 million of liquidity in there. Well, if that's how big it is, yeah, the little bit of incentive token that's coming in, they might only be generating, 20% a year in yield from that farming. But you could have something else like eMaxi, PMaxi, where there's maybe only $1 million of liquidity there, but you're generating almost as much yield as the big Pulse and PulseX pair is. So you might be generating 500% on the eMaxi, PMaxi pair versus 20% on the PulseX pair. And we're not going to know what it is. And depending on, like if the incentive token tanks, the amount of yield you're getting is meaningless at that point. So you need that incentive token to pump from time to time to make it worthwhile to be even getting the thing to begin with. So, all these things are, being aware of it right now is a good thing, and kind of have a general idea of how it works is a good thing. But
I can't imagine how low the volume would be on an eHack or eMaxi, PMaxi though. How many people are going to be doing that swap? That doesn't even make a whole lot of sense to me.
It might just be arbitrage. Like if the price of one moves a little bit and the other one stays stable, they're like, oh, okay, well, this one's a discount, so I'm gonna trade over.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of reason for those not to stay very close in price, right? It seems like they would very likely stay very close in price.
Yeah, I think they'll track similar. It should be similar with eHex, PHEX. So if, let's say, eHex is trading at 50% the value of PHEX, I think PHEX will be more expensive than eHex. So if, let's say, it's just 50%, I would assume that eMaxi and PMaxi would be similar, where PMaxi is double the price of Emaxi.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then
Okay.
they're
You're
gonna move.
yeah.
Then they'll move similar. So once they figure out what that premium and discount is on ehex and phex, and they start to stabilize where, every time hex goes up, or hex on pulse goes up, ehex goes up a little bit too, and that they're just like they're moving like this all the time, something close to each other at least. Then I would say, okay, well, Emaxi, Pmaxi should act similar to that. And they should just kind of, even if one is double the price, they should always kind of be going like this. You would think.
Yeah.
It's just that ratio, figuring out that initial ratio. Like, because you might have somebody right off the bat, whoever sets that first pair between ehex and phex, if they're like, I'm going to put in $1 million of ehex and pair that with $1 million of phex, so they're paired 1-to-1. Let's say that just one ehex is equal to one phex, and that's just the first guy that decides that. Whoever that happens to be. Well, I don't think everybody else, all the other people in the market, are going to agree on that, the two hexes being equal. You're probably going to have 75% of people be like, well, I think phex is better than ehex, so they're gonna pump the price of phex and sell their ehex. So soon after, like if it starts 1-to-1, and then all the other people are like, no, I'd much rather have phex. Well, they're gonna pump that phex, and ehex will still be, half the value or 75% the value, or maybe 10% the value. Who knows what that ratio will end up being. But once everybody kind of decides, like, ehex should be only 10% of phex, and then everybody's like, okay, that seems reasonable. Everybody's like, I like that kind of ratio, 10-to-1 or something. Then you'll be able to say, okay, well, based on this, now the Emaxi and Pmaxi, we can ratio those very similar, where Pmaxi is 10 times the value of Emaxi.
Yeah, I have a hard time wrapping my head around all that. It seems like that goes a lot into just people's psychology. Assuming that Ethereum is not going anywhere and that there's still a lot of activity there. I remember watching a Big Pat video where he explained why he thinks there's going to be parity between the price of ehex and phex, which is because you have people like we talked about with a lot of money, legacy whales and stuff that are using hex on Ethereum. They don't care so much about the fees. So the second you get hex that is, let's say phex is $1 and let's say ehex is 10 cents. A whale could go in there and be like, dude, 10-cent hex, when it's $1 over on a different chain, I'm going to load up. I'm going to buy a ton of this, and it's going to have lower liquidity, and the price is going to ratchet up faster. And you might have a lot of big dogs doing big time investments on ehex, and you're going to have maybe a lot of smaller fish, using phex because transaction fees are low. Doesn't change the contract, doesn't change the immutability of the contract. So the big boys might be playing over on Ethereum, really just taking advantage of basically what amounts to the same exact thing. And the prices will find parity, through kind of the way that they're being used. And then, as long as the price stays up on Ethereum, if I see that there's some big whale transactions over there, the second a big whale buys over there, I'm going to be like, dude, I'm going to buy some more of that ehex, man. That's like, there's some whales in there, and I think some more whales are going to be buying in, and maybe there's a little bit more room for growth, especially when there's a discount right now. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah,
So I don't
it
know.
could be. I think the most realistic thing is PHEX will be more expensive, and you'll have it like, so let's say PHEX is $1, EHEX is going to be like 80 or 90 cents. Like that's like, to me, that seems reasonable that it's not going to be cheap. And you've heard Richard say he doesn't want it cheap anywhere. He wants it expensive everywhere.
Yeah, man,
So,
everybody wants it expensive everywhere, but I don't know how you control that. I don't even know how Richard, unless he plays some major OA tricks, I don't know how he's going to make it expensive everywhere.
yeah,
Or if
well,
he
I guess
just thinks it will be.
yeah, it would depend on how much liquidity is paired between EHEX and PHEX. Like if the OA could go in there and be like, all right, 100 billion EHEX is paired up with 100 billion PHEX, and he just plops them in 1-to-1. Like a massive amount of liquidity of EHEX to PHEX. If he does that, they're going to be pegged pretty close, no matter what. Because you're not like, if somebody sells a billion hex, a billion hex for EHEX, it's not going to move the price at all because of that pairing.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to be bonded together. So it will depend on how much liquidity is paired in the EHEX PHEX. But if it's but I still think to me it seems more reasonable that PHEX is going to pump, and then maybe it'll drag up EHEX with it, because it's going to be so much easier to buy PHEX. And you'll have, if you can have 1 million people every single paycheck just buying $50 of PHEX, it's just going to pump the thing, and then depending on how much liquidity there is between EHEX and PHEX, and if PHEX pumps a little bit because $50 million just came in from 1 million people, well, it'll most likely pull up EHEX with it. If they're bonded with massive amounts of liquidity. But I just that to me it seems more logical that PHEX will outpace, just because you can have 1 million people buying $50 worth. But on Ethereum, you need a whale to always be buying. You're going to always need people buying $10,000, $100,000, and there's few people. There's maybe a few thousand people that can buy 10 grand or 100 grand worth.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I was overlooking the fact that there's going to be a lot less exit liquidity over there, and whales aren't going to like that too much. No one's going to want to pull out big stakes just to find out that they're getting crushed in slippage on their way out.
Yeah. So we'll see. If Staker app really ramps up marketing, and we see the number of stakers go from 90,000, what it is right now, and then it's like 50,000 people a month are being onboarded. I mean, that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to
be fun, man. That's good. I can't wait to see this go viral. It just needs to. It's time. It's amazing to see that you're still going. I saw a chart today on Twitter. Someone was talking about the big cryptocurrency of every year. They talked about how the big crypto of 2021, the big one of 2021, was Shiba Inu. The big one for 2019 was Link. The big one for 2020
was Doge, right?
Was Dot. I'm like, I think somebody forgot Hex, man. Somebody left Hex off the freaking list. Yeah, I don't get it. That how long can we be gatekept and ignored? You know, Pulsechain, if Pulsechain isn't common knowledge in the next 6 months, then I don't know what to say. It's the rate that it's growing already. Still, every day I find a new project that's being launched on Pulsechain. Like, it's getting to the point where we can't keep up anymore. There's just too many. They're popping up constantly. And I think that's great. I think that's awesome.
I think once Pulse actually launches, you know, all eyes are going to be on Pulse. And then just the fact that,
hope so.
Well, I mean, we know that lots of big crypto YouTubers sacrificed for Pulse and PulseX. And you got to figure that they're going to be talking about it on their channels. If they have a huge bag of it, they're going to be like, oh, we got this new thing called Pulse. It's really cool. It's constantly buying and burning, or, you know, it's deflationary. They're going to be like, this is really cool. But then once all eyes are on Pulse, they're going to be like, well, where did this Pulse even come from? Like, who made it? What's the story? And then it'll be, oh, this dude, Richard Hart, that made Pulse, he made Hex first. And the thing is wildly successful. So then people are going to be like, oh, I never heard of Hex. Maybe I should get some of that too. I think that's more or less how it'll play out.
Yeah, it seems if people can get Pulse, it'll be super easy for them to get Hex. And that'll be the nice thing about it. You know, Pulse is going to be the way to get the foot in the door. And then once they've learned how to use Pulse, they've used PulseX and stuff like that, then it's just a simple matter of a transaction that costs a fraction of a penny to buy some Hex. You know, They don't have to stake it. They don't have to do anything. It's just going to be super easy just to have some. And then they can learn about the staking. And then they can learn more about all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just hard for me to fathom Pulse taking off because it's been so big in our community. And I watch videos, obviously, every single day. And you do too, and Telegram chats and everything like that. But it's like, man, when is our time? When is this finally going to happen? It's like, how long can we be gatekept? And I hope that you're right. I hope those crypto or the YouTube influencers that have all bought. Yeah, I hope guys like BitBoy, once it actually goes live, actually start freaking talking about it. Because if they don't, then they are the biggest hypocrites in the world.
Yeah, I mean they have to. Even if they don't really like Richard Hart, I mean, I don't know how you can ignore it when you've got everybody that has anything on Ethereum is going to get the copy, and then whoever YouTuber you follow, BitBoy or Crypto Banter or somebody else, if they never bring up Pulse and the fact that you get a whole bunch of free coins over there, they're going to lose a lot of their viewers if they don't ever mention it.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be pretty much forced to mention, hey, you know that this thing Pulse just launched, and whatever you had on Ethereum, you got a copy on Pulse. So go over there, get your free coins, dump them if you want, use Pulse. But once people go over there to get their free coins, and then they realize, oh yeah, it's a fraction of a penny, and I can swap for a bunch of different things. I mean, it's gonna bring people in, and they're gonna stay. And maybe not everybody will stay, but a lot of people are gonna stay.
Yeah.
Like all these different projects on Ethereum that the fees just killed them. You know, if the fees aren't less than $1 on a lot of these different things, the project can't operate.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine what it's like for someone like a dev trying to launch a new project, and just the pure number of test transactions that they have to make, or this or that, or just trying to get adoption rolling, and just realizing that the swap fees are just unsustainable for them, and are such a wall for adoption to try and get people interested. Because that's what's happening right now all the time. That's why these people have to make calls. That's why guys like B Roots are so necessary, Because who's going to try out some new freaking meme coin that costs, a billionth of a penny, and it's some strange, like right now is Mike Tyson Inu. That's the big one of the day, MTI, and it was called this morning. Like, I don't know if I think it launched this morning. And who's going to buy that on the Ethereum network for, I don't know what gas is right now, but yeah, I mean, you got to be looking at something like $20, $30, $40. Actually, it seems like it's pretty cheap right now. But, how many people just want to test the waters and try this out for those kind of swap fees? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can be on Pulsechain and, be like, whatever, I'll buy $5 worth. Why not? I'll buy $5 worth of 100 different projects just for fun, just to see how they go.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you like even I think I told you I tried out Liquidity on Ethereum, which it's the liquid loans thing.
Yeah.
The original liquid loans. And the fees for that loan were like for the Ethereum gas fees, it was like 300 some bucks.
Wow.
And
that's stupid.
Yeah, like it was nuts. I mean, and then I took out a second, like I took it was very low risk initially, like only 20% of the collateral or something. And then I was like, I'll take another loan out. And then that time it was like $200. But like, who can operate like that? If you only want to take, well, the minimum is $2,000.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get real small people in there, but even so, like if you want to take your $2,000 loan, who wants to pay $300-400 for that? But if it's like, a fraction of a penny or maybe a couple pennies, because it did seem like it took up a lot more gas. There was a lot more block space it took up for whatever reason. So maybe it's a few pennies on Pulse. Like people will be like, yeah, I'll take my little loan. I'll try it out. And then like if they decide the thing sucks or they don't want to anymore, they just repay it. But you'll have a lot of people that will want to use that for trading.
Yeah.
They'll be like, I'll take a loan, pay my few pennies, and then I'll take that and then I'll buy some coin that's dipping. And then they, if it pumps, they sell the thing and then they repay their loan. Like, I think a lot of people would do that, but with Ethereum, if every time you took that loan, it's $300-400 and you're only going to borrow a couple thousand, who's going to, right there, you're taking a 20% penalty in gas fees. And then you're going to buy some other coin with it. Well, that coin needs to go up at least 20% just to break even on your loan fees or on the gas fees to start out, plus the swap, plus all these things.
Yeah.
All these different things, you can just imagine, if there's one guy doing it on Ethereum, there's going to be 1,000 people that will do it on Pulse. No matter what it is, whether if it's taking a loan with liquid loans, if it's collecting your farming tokens, like if there's one dude that clicks it on Ethereum, at least 1,000 people will click that same button as often as the one guy, on Pulse, because the fees are going to be so cheap that everybody and their brother is going to be using it. Like even people like us, like I limit my activities on Ethereum just because the fees are just insane. But on Pulse, I'm probably not going to have to ration myself. If there's one thing I did on Ethereum, I'll probably do 100 different things on Pulse just because I can.
Yep. Yeah, and I told you I'm going to have my son playing around on there. I can't wait to get him on a computer and show him the ropes and just be like,
have at it, kid. You know, just check out some stuff, click some stuff, have fun. You know,
Yeah.
as long as we have him in a secure enough way that he's not going to do something to jeopardize us. You know, if he's just using a play wallet
Yeah.
with a handful of Pulse, man, there's not a whole lot of trouble he can get in. And I think it's awesome to have cheap transactions like that.
Yeah. Definitely can't come soon enough.
No, for sure.
I really hope those devs, when they were talking about mid-May, I really hope that it's close to that.
Yeah, it makes me nervous. I was just looking at the calendar, realizing it's April 23rd, and I was like, crap, dude, mid-May is coming up fast.
Yeah,
I mean,
three weeks. I mean, it's
3
not,
weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks, we're in mid-May. 4 weeks, you might still be able to consider mid-May. And after that, why even talk about May anymore? Then we're into June. So,
well, and they did. I think somebody said, it might have been Richard, that they're still planning on a V3 for testnet.
really?
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. But everyone always said V3 shouldn't take more than 2 weeks, right? Because once you have V3, everyone said V3 is pretty much just a stress test, right? It's just, you know, the icing on the cake. Everything should be good to go. They just want 2 weeks of flawless running on V3, and then they're good to release.
So yeah, it's possible they, you know, once they get the sacrifice balances figured out, maybe like in the next week, then V3 launches. Let's say in 1 to 2 weeks, V3 comes out, and then that runs for 2 weeks with no troubles, no big issues or anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we theoretically could be, you know, that 3 to 4 week kind of window away.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be huge. I mean, you got to assume that that's once we're in V3, at least maybe that's when people start getting real pumped up, and it could increase in virality. You know, I know there's definitely going to be influencers that are going to wait until it's actually live, and maybe even after they've tested it out a little bit and seen some transactions go through before they start really talking about it, or maybe even after pumps a little bit. But you've got to assume that once we know for certainty, once you see V3 or something, once it looks like it's a finished product and we have a definite release date, you got to just assume that the amount of excitement that's going to be going on, you know, the FOMO and the excitement is going to be huge.
That might actually be the kickoff for Hex. Like when V3, so Richard is like, all right, V3's live. And then people are like, all right, FOMO into Hex.
It's like starting the timer, like the countdown timer.
Yeah.
Like, you know it can't be more than
2 weeks or so, yeah.
2 weeks or something. Yeah. Even if it was 4 weeks or something, you know it's not going to be indefinitely long anymore. The end is the light at the end of the tunnel is there.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yep. 115.8 million in Maxi now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll probably get in today. And I freaking Ethereum, man. I hate the transactions. I hate having to go out there and buy Hex and then switch it to Maxi. It's a freaking hassle.
Yeah. What are the fees like right now?
Gas is pretty low. I just saw gas at 21 like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I'm seeing 32 right now for fast. Yeah, 31. 32.
Yeah, 31 right now.
That's reasonable. What is that, like 25 or $30 for a swap?
I don't know. I know there's a good Etherscan gas tracker always shows what those prices are. That's showing about $15 for a V3 swap.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean, that's as cheap as it gets, really. That 15 to $20. If it's ever in that range, it's a good time. So you can snap up your Hex, mint some Maxi, and live the dream with the rest of us.
Yeah, man. I can just Yeah, just chill out a little bit. That's sort of like the end of all the money that we've set aside. So it's like it's gonna be then it's just gonna be time to sit in DCA. So, and I'm looking forward to DCAing, man. I'm kind of tired of all this trying to round up money for big purchases. The SAC phases have been nice, but I think there's a lot of people that are just tired of SAC phases. Everyone's trying to pool up money and do these big purchases. It's going to be such a better experience for people when they can just kind of sit back and get a little bit more traditional with their investments. There's always going to be, but it's SAC phases are degen. They're degen activity. They might be secure, and we know Richard Hart. We're excited about the projects and everything like that, but aping into stuff, it's just not healthy. It's not good. There's no, realistically, I think if Richard could look back and say, is it actually healthy investing activity for people to sack big into something in August of 2021 and in April of 2022, they're still wringing their hands, like looking forward to that thing happening? Like that's not, no one has been happy waiting this long. It's stressful, and I'm sure that it has taken a toll on a lot of people's relationships with their spouses and stuff. And just like everyone says, there's going to be a lot of people that sell right away. They're going to sell, and everyone's like, why would people sell right away? That doesn't make any sense, because there's the price is going to go up. And it's like, yeah, well, a lot of people have car payments or house payments or whatever, and they really screwed themselves by sacking big with money that they really shouldn't have used. And the second that this goes live, they're going to sell just to try and recoup their losses, or because they're desperate for that money that they never should have sacked in the first place. There's people crying about that on Twitter all the time. I spent money that I didn't have, and I took out a loan, or I borrowed money for the SAC phase, and now I can't repay them, and this can't come soon enough because I'm desperate for cash. Like, yeah, it's hard for people, but we're okay, but it's still hard.
Yeah, it'll be like, you got to wonder, like, there's going to be that group of people that sacked, and pretty much they like you said, they were thinking, all right, this thing's going to launch in a month or two. They, especially for Pulse, with we were sacking back in July, so we're going on. So if it launches in May, that's 10 months. 10 months later that people had to wait. And if they were thinking, I'll sack in July, and then by August, September, October, whatever, the thing will go live, the thing will pump, and then I'll sell some, or at least I'll be able to sell. If I'm going to hold or sell, I'll at least have that option. But here we are almost 10 months later. What percentage of people are going to be those, panic sellers right out of the gate because they have to? Not even because they want to, but like it's been so long that they pretty much have to, versus all the people that wish they had gotten in back in July, and now they've been waiting this whole time, and they're just going to buy right when Pulse launches.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are there more people that wish they had bought than the panic sellers right off the bat? I don't know what it's going to be. To me, it seems like there's going to be more buyers than sellers.
Yeah, I would imagine. All
the people that wish they had gotten in, or wish they had known about the sacrifice.
Yeah, I would imagine there's going to be a lot of people that want to sell right away, but they don't want to take a loss, really. So we're gonna see that pump still, I would guess. I can't imagine being like, yeah, I spent $10,000 in the sacrifice, and now I'm willing to sell it for, get $5,000 back. Just when these things could be so dynamic over the first couple of weeks that you might as well just wait until it pumps a little bit before you're going to sell. If you've waited this long, don't take a huge loss. So I think there will be sellers, and I think there will be a lot of people, though, you've got to assume, that have been just sitting on the sidelines. They all they sacked for PulseX. Like, how many more sack addresses were there for the PulseX sacrifice? It was sick. So many more.
Yeah, like 3 times, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of those people are going to be trying to get Pulse early on too.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of people that they probably, whatever they sacrificed for Pulse and PulseX, they were like, okay, I'll get in a little bit, but I'm going to wait for Pulse to actually launch to buy the rest of my bag.
Yeah, they're not all hexagons. A lot of the
Yeah.
people, they just, they put in a little bit, they dabbled, and now they see the excitement growing, and they're like, yeah, when this goes live, man, I'm going to jump in quick and get some more before the price goes up. Because they're seeing all these videos on YouTube that are talking about 10,000x and stuff like that, and they're like, oh man, I wish I would have gone in more or bigger with that sack. So I think there's going to be a lot of buyers.
But in 2 years, assuming all goes well, like whether Pulse does 100x or 1,000x in 2 years, like we're gonna look back, or there's gonna be people that just find out about Pulse in 2 years, and they're gonna be like, you're so lucky and all that, this stuff, and then we'll be like, well, you don't realize we sat around for a year after sacrificing, not knowing if this thing was ever going to take off, or like we're just suffering for like a year. And then, so they forget about all of the pain when you're waiting, or when the price is going sideways or anything else. All they see is the thing pump like crazy. They're like, oh, you're so lucky.
Yeah. I'm reading The Richest Man in Babylon right now. And there's a whole section about luck and what luck is. And I'm not even going to try and quote it or explain what that was all about. But I mean, it's really the gist of it, though, is that, the lucky people are the ones who have sacrificed a lot to become lucky. They're the people who put in the work already. They're the people who have been patient, or, the people who have seized on opportunities. And that's what makes them lucky. Because the opposite of lucky would be unlucky. You can't necessarily say, you can't say you were unlucky because you didn't sit around for a year waiting for something to launch.
Or
the
best,
you're lucky that you didn't have to. There's always an inverse to everything. So I wouldn't say that, if anyone wants to look back and say, oh, you guys are so lucky. It's like, no, maybe I was a little bit blessed to have, learned about this opportunity from my friend Dave over here, but I was not, I took, there was risk involved and there was waiting involved.
Yeah. The best short definition I've heard, and maybe it's somebody pulled it from that Babylon book, is luck is where preparation and opportunity meet. So you prepared, and usually it's just like saving. Like, most of the time it's somebody saved, and then their next door neighbor gets in a pinch, and he's got a nice, classic car. He's got some classic car that's worth 20 grand, but the neighbor's like, hey, I'm in a pinch. I'll sell this car to you for 12 grand, even though it's worth 20. He's like, I just need money now. Well, whoever, like if you hadn't saved, or if you didn't have any savings, that opportunity comes up. You don't have any money anyway, so your neighbor goes to somebody else to sell the car. But if you've saved and prepared, now you have that $12,000, and the neighbor's like, hey, I'll sell you my car for 12 grand, even though it's worth 20. You're like, okay, I'll buy it. And then and then after you buy the car, you might have to wait a month. Like, you relist it on eBay Motors or Craigslist or whatever, and you sit on it for a few weeks or a month, and then somebody buys it from you for 20 grand. You just made a quick $8,000. Well, I wouldn't say that's lucky. It's just, you prepared, an opportunity presented itself, and you jumped on it. But now it is interesting with YouTube, the way the algorithm works. It is possible maybe to be lucky or unlucky, just strictly out of chance. Like there could be two people, both of them have saved for the last 2 years, and they're waiting for an opportunity. And then one of them happens to watch a video that leads them to a Richard Hart video. And the other guy watches maybe even the same video, that same first video, but for whatever reason, it doesn't take him to Richard Hart's video. And so the one guy is able to get in on the sacrifice, and the other guy, for whatever reason, he never saw that Richard Hart video and missed out on the PulseX or Pulse sacrifice for whatever reason. And then after, let's say maybe now for some reason, YouTube shows him Richard Hart, and he's like, oh, well, I just missed Pulse and PulseX. Now I'm going to have to wait for the launch and maybe pay, 2 or 3 or 5 times as much as the sacrificer did, just out of pure chance that he didn't see the video. I mean, think of all the people that have been in crypto since, let's say 4 years, but for whatever reason, they just never saw any Richard Hart things pop up on the suggested videos. For who knows why, like that. And I don't even know why, I saw him in the first place. I don't remember, it seems like it was an interview with somebody else that I already happened to be watching. I don't know if it was Tone Vase or I don't know who it was, but it was multiple people and they were just picking Richard Hart's brain, standard interview or whatever. And I'm like, oh, this guy's interesting. And so, I mean, that was just pure chance that, I fell onto. Now the crypto part, that wasn't pure chance. Like it was, I had seen it a few times, I'd heard of Bitcoin a few times prior, so that took a leap of faith just to get into crypto. And then once I kind of was in crypto and I was watching various videos and listening to various podcasters, then Richard Hart pops in. I'm like, oh, okay. So like the first step was just getting into crypto. Second step was happening to see Richard Hart video.
Yeah. Here I'm trying to dissect this and think, what would Tony Robbins say or something like that. And I think that it's that amount of action that's being taken too. And that was what I found in The Richest Man in Babylon. I looked it up really quickly. It says a person of action is favored by the goddess of good luck. So the thing is so maybe one person missed out on Richard Hart and didn't get to learn about Richard Hart early, but what were they doing in the meantime? There's plenty of people who have made millions of dollars without ever having heard of Richard Hart. Yeah. So everyone should have been preparing in the meantime. So that's what you said, where preparation meets opportunity. So that maybe you missed the first opportunity, but are you prepared for the second opportunity? Because then when the second opportunity comes around, and then you snag that one, then people will be like, oh, you're so lucky you got that opportunity. It's like, yeah, but I missed the first opportunity. Yeah. And then people that jump on the third opportunity who are prepared and are prepared to take action on the third opportunity, then people look at that person and say, oh, you're so lucky you got this opportunity. It's like, well, opportunities realistically are presenting themselves all the time. It's just, when did you opt to get into it? The thing is, I could even tell myself, and I'm not trying to discount how generous you were in helping me out, but I could even tell myself like, oh man, if I hadn't met Dave, if I hadn't seen him on Telegram and reached out, I never would have learned about Richard Hart and I would have had this great opportunity. It's like, that could be true, but hopefully, I jumped into this with you because I was interested in cryptocurrency already. I had already been exploring opportunities and looking into things, and hopefully another opportunity would have presented itself. Who knows?
Yeah,
maybe something even better could have happened. Maybe I would have found Shiba Inu and actually gotten into that and gotten a quick 10,000x on that. But I actually missed out on that opportunity because I was busy talking to you about Hex. Who knows? There's always something out there that people should be reaching out for and striving for. So I know this is the philosopher in me, but Yeah, I mean, I don't like to believe in luck. I don't think there's such a thing as luck, really. I think everyone can have certain opportunities, but every time one person wins, there's someone else that can say that they lost. Someone else is always going to do better than someone else. I was thinking the other day about roulette, right? Let's say everyone puts their money on roulette, and everyone picks a different number and a different color, and then a 5 comes up. Now everyone looks at the person that won the 5 and it was like, oh, that person's so lucky. That I can't believe it. That person's so lucky. Like, yeah, but I don't know how many spots there are on a roulette, 50 or something. So you're talking about 49 other people that didn't win. Is it 30?
30. I think it's 36 numbers and
36.
two zeros.
Okay, so 35 other people then, let's say, that didn't win. So, was that really luck, or is it just this is how a circle works? When you divide a circle into spaces and spin it, it's going to land on something. No one gets lucky or unlucky. It just happens. It's science and it's mathematics. So the only thing that you could have done is have put your money on the table, and like an average degen, you put your money on the table and hope that you win. You can't say that person got lucky. They put the money on the table just like everybody else. Everyone showed up to the casino and put their money down. If you go enough times, so you put your money down enough times and you make smart decisions about which games you play, you're going to win something sometime. So it's your job to make the smartest decisions, to find the best tables, to find the best way to gamble. Right now we think that Richard Hart projects are our best way to gamble. And it's got the highest likelihood of winning. And it's much better than the odds at the casino.
Yeah, and I think the guy that loses on roulette isn't unlucky from that. He's unlucky because somebody told him about a casino in the first place. That was the unlucky part, is that he found out about it, found out a place where you could lose a ton of money real fast.
Yeah, maybe the only way that you can really be unlucky or lucky is if you're innocent. The second you have the opportunity to start making decisions for yourself, you need to make smart decisions. And as soon as you're able to make smart decisions, then luck stops becoming part of the equation. Then you put yourself in those positions. There are those people that, I don't know, Stoics or something like that would say that, you are responsible for everything that happens to you. If you're walking along the road and a car splashes water on you, you're responsible for that. Because why were you walking along the side of the road in the first place? Why were you not accounting for water? Why were you not wearing waterproof clothes? Why were you not in a car or whatever else there might be? Why did you decide to live in that part of the world? Every choice and decision that you made along the way is what put you in that position. So instead of saying that you're unlucky for anything that happens to you, just tell yourself that you put yourself in that position in the first place. So, as thankful as I am for you introducing me to Richard Hart and all this stuff, I was making steps to put myself in that position in the first place. I was prepared to dig into crypto. And when you presented me with the opportunity, like a man of action, I took that opportunity and I ran with it. And, ever since then, I've been spending time with you, learning more and more to become more successful in this. I'm not just sitting around waiting for luck to happen to me.
Yeah. I will, this might be a question for a philosopher on whether this particular guy was unlucky.
Yeah, I'm right here. Go ahead.
So this was like middle school. We're riding the bus home, and it either had just rained or it was raining. I forget. But there was along the side of the road, there's tons of water just kind of rushing down the edge between the curb and the road. There's usually always that water rushing down the side. Well, we're on the bus and there's a guy walking down the sidewalk with a chain link fence, like it's 100-foot long chain link fence right along the sidewalk. And he was probably in the middle of the chain link fence on the sidewalk. So he had 50 feet to run either direction to get around the side of this chain link fence. And the bus is just plowing up the road. hitting this water that's really deep and it's all muddy and everything else. So it's like, there's like this huge, like 15-foot tall, 20-foot wide blast of water, like muddy water spraying out from the side of the bus. Well, I think when the guy saw the bus coming, he's like, oh man, I'm screwed. Well, he tried to make a move and get out, but because of that chain link fence there, he had nowhere to go. Like he had to run up the road, but the bus was running or, going faster than him. So he just got totally doused with this muddy water. And so what are the odds? The guy happened to be walking next to this chain link fence, nowhere to go, and a bus is plowing up the road, making this huge splash from this muddy water. Now, is that guy unlucky that he just happened to be at the right place at the right time to get soaked with muddy water?
See, I feel like a jerk saying this now, though, because I don't want to, sound like I'm telling anyone, oh, it's all your freaking fault. You deserved it. I don't think he deserved it. I'm not saying he deserved to have that happen to him, but you got to take into account, did he see that puddle before he walked past the puddle? Was there a reason for him to assume that he could walk past that puddle without getting wet? I guess sometimes things are just, they are what they are. It could have easily been someone else walking along there and them got in all wet. So I don't know if it's necessarily unlucky or if it's just like, this is the way the world works. Water splashes, buses go through water sometimes. Chain link fences prevent people from avoiding it. I don't know. That is a good question for a real philosopher. There's a guy I like to watch on YouTube. Have you heard of the Daily Stoic?
I don't think so. No.
Ryan Holiday, I think is his name.
No.
I think he's the Daily Stoic. Yeah, he's good. He's written some books. He wrote a book called The Daily Stoic too. And he's a younger guy. He just discusses a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I think the thing that definitely worked in my favor is I was just listening to so many different things when I was driving truck. I had 12-hour days of, driving and then several hours of unloading where I could just listen to different things. So I was just like soaking up information from all over the place. And just by exposing myself to a bunch of stuff, I happened to come across crypto, and then, you look at the guy that when you're saying, did the guy prepare? If he's not doing anything, like if all he does is watch cartoons or something all day long, and he's not, and maybe he learned some things from the cartoons, but like it's not like a broad spectrum that he's learning from cartoons. Could he have been, maybe a portion of the day he could be watching cartoons to learn whatever he can learn from that. But then maybe some nature channels, maybe some of this, maybe some of that, but just like a broad soaking up information from all over different topics. And then that's his preparation. And then he's exposed to whatever the opportunity is. And throughout all that, the waiting and exposure and preparation, then he's like, okay, well, now I can act on this opportunity. I think that's probably one of the, and you hear it from most people, like, I'll read some things once in a while, but usually I prefer visually seeing something or hearing it. So, but you hear a lot of people that say read a lot. Like the smartest people read all the time. Richard Hart says he reads a lot. And most of these guys, Jack Dorsey, Elon Musk, they always say, oh yeah, I read a lot.
Yeah, Warren Buffett reads, hours a day or something.
And it's probably when they say they read a lot, they're not just reading gardening magazines all day long.
Yeah. They're reading Ziggy comics.
Yeah, only looking at Ziggy comics all day long and reading those. I'm sure it's, some comics, some gardening, some science and technology, just like a bunch of different
history and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And reading, books, not just magazines or comics or something, books, and so a wide variety of different things.
Yeah. Yeah. I told my son, he's 7, and I'm trying to give him some wisdom about how to one day be wealthy. And I don't want him to think that money's the end all and the be all, right? But I want him to be prepared for, a financial security in the future. And he's always talking about how he wants to start a business, like own a candy store someday. He thinks that'd be the coolest thing in the world to own a candy store. And I've always tried to tell him stuff like, what you need to have a candy store? You have to work really, really hard. You need employees. You're gonna have overhead. You're gonna have to pay for a rental space. You're gonna, he's only 7, so some of this is going over his head. But I'm just trying to get him to think about all these things. You don't just say you want to own a candy store and magically you have a candy store. There's a lot of hard work that goes into it.
Yeah.
But he knows I'm into crypto, and he was, I decided I was going to give him some pointers about money, and I realized the first thing that I taught him was that if you want to have a lot of money someday, you have to think about money. You have to really want to have a lot of money. And that means that you have to read about it and think about it and focus on it and, make it an important part of your life. Frankly, as sad as that sounds, don't let it dominate other things. There are other things that are more important, but you have to dedicate time to it, because you can't watch cartoons all day and then say, oh man, how come my ship never came in? How come I never made all that money like I wanted to? It's like, well, how much of your time did you actually dedicate to learning this stuff? That's really important. You have to read books about it. I'm not a prolific reader, but on my shelf, I have Think and Grow Rich. I have The Richest Man in Babylon. I have The Wealthy Barber. I have some other investment books. I have Jack Welch's biography. I have Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I have The Millionaire Next Door. I have Dave Ramsey books. I'm trying to learn about personal finance and economics and, the way the world works and the way people become wealthy. And, by no means am I super successful, but I'm getting there and I'm doing better.
Yeah.
And, my son's never going to be successful if he decides that video games are all he wants to do for the rest of his life, unless he becomes a video game designer. And I've told him, if you want to be a video game designer, you're going to have to learn a lot and work really hard.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. The one thing that you might be able to show him, because he wants a candy store. What we're kind of doing with David is, and we started this about 2 years ago. We have, we get a surplus of eggs from our chickens, and actually, I think I had this thought of putting a cooler out by the road with a few dozen eggs in there with a sign, and basically have it like be an honor system type thing. But I never acted on it. I never did anything. And then 2 years ago, David's like, hey, we should sell our eggs. What if we
have enough eggs to sell?
Yeah, we have an extra few dozen a week we can sell. And he's like, hey, we should set up a little thing and sell eggs. I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. So, I made just a real basic wooden sign and painted on it farm fresh eggs. And then we've got a cooler with a piece of paper taped on the top with an ice pack in there, throw a few dozen eggs in there in a jar. And David wrote on the jar, like dollar signs and stuff. And then a couple times a week, I set the thing out by the road and people can stop in or not stop in. And at their convenience, they open the cooler, throw in $5, take their eggs, and they're on their way. But I think it's a good way to, and it's been tough to really get him pumped on it. At least he knows that it's happening. And like I'm doing like 99% of everything. Every now and then he'll run out there and check to see if we've sold any eggs. But most of it, I'm doing it. But hopefully, like he's seeing this and kind of at least get the wheels turning. Like, oh yeah, I can start out with some simple thing like this and build a business out of it. Now,
Yeah.
business, I mean, we're not making any money. It pays for the chicken feed, basically. But, you know, at least it, you know, it kind of gets him thinking of how this all works, you know, starting a business, entrepreneurship, and then maybe he does something with it, or maybe he just wants to, you know, do the regular 9 to 5 thing. But at least, you know, exposing him to this idea is better than not. And I don't know what you could do with your kid, you know, setting up some kind of stand like that. Even if, like, you know, most kids set up like a lemonade stand, and that's like the go-to thing. And you know, in the Philippines, we set up a donut stand. We would sell on Saturday mornings. My 2 brothers and I would sell donuts to people, and it was usually like this one guy that always rode his bike, like one of these extreme bike guys, you know, like ripped, bikes 50 miles every day or every Saturday, whatever it was. But he would stop in, and usually he'd buy out all of our donuts, and maybe it was like a dozen donuts we'd have at any given time. He'd buy them all.
Nice.
And then we'd run back inside and be like, "Hey, mommy, we need to make another batch of donuts." So, and she would be like, "All right, all the ingredients are $3, so we'd have to give her $3 to make, you know, $12 worth of donuts." And then that was our deal.
Yeah, that's smart. That's good.
Yeah. Almost done. I'll let you know. Okay. Yeah, maybe. Okay. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an idea. You know, you can see what he's interested in trying out, and then
Yeah. It's we're working on laziness right now. It's hard enough to get him to clean up toys.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a candy store too. Like, you know, you go to Costco, you buy a big bag of fun size Snickers or something, and then he sells, you know, each one individually for $0.25 or whatever it is. Whatever
I don't know where. We live in a cul-de-sac. He's not going to do too well in our neighborhood. We've got like 20 houses in a cul-de-sac, and they're all old people. We don't get a whole lot of traffic. He'd be out there most of the day. He might sell one piece of candy. Probably to the lady walking her dog. She'd probably be kind enough to stop by and buy a piece of candy.
Or what about or if your neighbors have weeds, he could, you know, especially if they're old people, and you know, old people don't like weeds, and they don't like to bend over to pull weeds. Say like, hey, I'll pull all the weeds in your yard for, you know, $5 or something.
Yeah, I could probably. I mean, we might be able to talk about that soon. The neighbors, we got some, you know, I wouldn't say they're old ladies, but they're, you know, somewhat grandmotherly, and they like seeing Matthew. Might make them happy to have him coming over and pulling some weeds. So
yeah,
we'll look into that. That's a good idea, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, teaching the value of hard work is really, really hard, you know. So I guess, you know, and that's something that I definitely need to work on. But I was just starting off with just trying to reinforce that idea that, you know, that he needs to start. Well, he doesn't need to right at the moment, but he needs to know that having money doesn't come without thinking about money.
No. Yeah.
But anywho, yeah, man. I mean, that's what we're doing, right? That's why we're doing this stream in the first place. Is, you know, I'll just kind of recap what I said the last time we talked. You know, I don't know if we're finishing up here. I wanted to get this out because it's what I'm most passionate about. Is the fact that this, in large part for me, is about the growth, and it's about forcing myself to learn more, and it's forcing myself to discuss this more and broaden my knowledge base and just live inside of this sort of environment where we make responsible decisions and we learn as much as we can. And I never want that to stop, because I'm afraid that, if you and I stopped talking, and if I decided to, give up on doing live streams or a blog or anything like that, I would slowly get sucked back into a world of, video games and Facebook and, just working around the house, which is great in its own right. But, if I want to be successful and provide for my family to the point where we can retire early and enjoy financial freedom, I want this to be, the lifestyle that I live. So that's what I get out of this in large part, besides hanging out with my buddy here, Dave.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, it's fun and yeah, I'm sure we'll learn some things.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
Even like learning how to operate StreamYard and just the basics of live YouTube streaming. I mean, there's a slight learning curve.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if we could have Richard Hart on the live stream soon, that would be great. I don't know if
Episode 2.
I don't know if he's watching yet, but yeah, man. But hopefully we can get some guests on here once we get some views and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we could learn a little bit more. Otherwise, I'll just have to keep watching YouTube videos instead of actually having live interviews with people.
Yeah, and repeating things out loud is one of the best ways to learn. Like as soon as you learn something and then you teach somebody else that thing, you're like 10 times as likely to remember whatever that thing is than if you just watch something, if you just read something and then you forget about it. Like you never bring it up to anybody, you never talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe for our next episode, I should try and learn something and then present it to you. Because honestly, I feel like 99% of the time you're teaching me stuff and I'm soaking up information that you're teaching me because you learned about, I don't know, about bridge liquidity between, E hex and P hex. And that to me is like all over my head. And you seem to have done kind of dives into that so you understand it. Maybe eventually one of these days I'll learn a little something about something and I'll make you go like, interesting. Oh wow, it's really cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. That sounds good. Well, does that cover it for today? That was pretty good.
It was pretty good, man. We're at 2 hours and 38 minutes, right? Can you see the timer up there?
Yeah.
And you can see that big donut next to the
live viewers 0.
Live viewers 0. You know what though? Maybe we'll get a couple people that watch it after the fact.
Yeah, maybe. Is that from YouTube?
Yeah, I think it's going both ways. I think that's live metrics from YouTube.
Okay.
That's showing us, because they seem to sync really fast. As soon as I made some alterations to stuff in StreamYard, it was like almost immediately over in YouTube. It had already updated over there.
Oh, okay.
So when I open up the channel in YouTube, I can see the video there and everything. So as soon as I click on broadcast, I'm going to go over there and just double check it out, and then I'm going to watch it real quick so it gets one view.
Watch it in 3x speed or something.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you can I don't know if you have to watch a certain amount of it in order to consider a view. I think all you have to do is just click on it for a minute.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
But yeah, this is public too, so you can see it too. And I've got a couple people I'm going to share it with. I'll probably send the link over to my brother, and then I got a guy at work that I talked to about this. So I'm going to send a copy to him too, so he can view it. And then
sounds good.
Were you thinking next Saturday we'll do it again?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we'll talk details.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I realized why we don't have any viewers right now. Because normally we would have had a lot of viewers. I saw on Twitter that K4K said, like, shortly after we started streaming, K4K was like, "Hey guys, should I stream?"
Oh, he's got all of our viewers right now.
Yeah. That's what happened. He bogarted all of our viewers. Otherwise they'd all be watching us. It's all good, man. I'm looking forward to this. Good stuff.
Yeah. All right.
All right, man. I'm going to end it. And you know what? Let me see if we can. You know what we need to do real quick before you go?
What's up?
Let me do this. Let's do this real quick. All right, guys. Go ahead, like and subscribe, please. If you're watching this at all, if you even come across this randomly, please just give us a like to show some support for the Hexagon community. For me and Dave, I'm Cobb. He's Dave. And subscribe so that you don't miss us. And there's a notification bell as well, so that when we stream next Saturday, maybe you'll get a heads up and you can join us and do one of those comments so that we have something better than the StreamYard duck doing this as an example. It'd be awesome to get something real. So, all right, Dave, anything you wanted to say before we leave?
No, I think that was a nice sign-off message.
All right, cool, man.
All right.
Just a quick reminder, Richard Hart called Bitcoin top on the day. And that sounds good, man. All right.
All right.
I'll talk to you later, Dave.
Yep. See ya.
All right, howdy.